The fall of ancient civilizations. B2 level, upper intermediate. Human history is full of stories about glory and decline. From the earliest kingdoms in the deserts of Mesopotamia to the shining marble cities of Greece, people have built powerful societies that changed the world. Yet none of them lasted forever. Every civilization, no matter how great, eventually met its end. The reasons were different wars, disasters, or slow internal decay, but the pattern was always the same: rise, greatness, and fall. Understanding why ancient civilizations collapsed is not only a question for historians. It helps us reflect on our own modern world. We, too, face climate change, political tension, and social division. The past can teach us how to survive the future. 1. What is a civilization? Before we talk about collapse, it is important to know what exactly a civilization is. A civilization is a complex human society. It has cities, agriculture, writing, art, religion, trade, and government. It is a system that connects thousands or even millions of people into one shared culture. But civilizations are fragile. They depend on balance between nature and people, between rich and poor, between power and responsibility. When one part of that balance breaks, everything else can start falling apart. Civilizations rise when they are flexible, creative, and organized. They fall when they stop adapting, when leaders become corrupt, or when the environment can no longer support them. 2. The Indus Valley Civilization, the silent decline. One of the earliest urban cultures in the world grew along the Indus River, in what is today Pakistan and northwest India. Around 2600 BCE, the Indus Valley Civilization reached its peak. The cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro had straight streets, brick houses, and advanced drainage systems. Archaeologists discovered wells, public baths, and storage buildings for grain. Unlike Mesopotamia or Egypt, there is almost no evidence of kings or armies. The Indus people seem to have ruled through cooperation rather than war. Their seals, decorated with animals and symbols, show a high level of artistry and communication. And yet, around 1900 BCE, the great cities began to empty. No great war destroyed them. Instead, they slowly lost their population. The reasons are still a mystery, but many scientists believe that environmental change played a major role. The climate became drier, monsoon rains weakened, and rivers changed course. The mighty Sarasvati River may have disappeared completely. Without reliable water, crops failed. Trade with Mesopotamia declined. Families moved eastward towards smaller villages, where rainfall was better. Urban life collapsed quietly. The fall of the Indus Valley Civilization teaches us that even peaceful and organized societies can die if nature turns against them. Climate, not conflict, can be the strongest enemy. 3. The Akkadian Empire, the first collapse. The Akkadian Empire, founded by Sargon of Akkad around 2330 BCE, was the world's first true empire. It united the city-states of Mesopotamia under one rule. Its capital, Akkad, became a center of trade, language, and culture. The Akkadians built temples, created new art styles, and spread the use of the cuneiform script. But only a century later, the empire fell apart. Ancient records tell of famine and chaos. The fields gave no grain, the wells dried, and the people wandered in hunger. Modern research supports this. Around 2200 BCE, a long drought hit the region, a disaster now known as the 4.2 kiloyear event. Without water, the once fertile land turned into desert. The cities could no longer feed their people. Rebellions started, trade stopped, and the empire collapsed. This event shows the enormous influence of climate on human history. Even the most powerful ruler could not fight against years of drought. The land that once made Mesopotamia rich became its grave. 4. The Mycenaean world, when heroes disappeared. In Greece, between 1600 and 1100 BCE, another great civilization flourished, the Mycenaeans. Their stone palaces, like Mycenaean Tirans, were centers of power and legend. This was the time of the heroes we know from Homer's Iliad: Agamemnon, Achilles, and Odysseus. The Mycenaeans were traders and warriors. They exported olive oil, wine, and bronze weapons across the Mediterranean. Their writing system, Linear B, recorded taxes and goods. Their art and architecture showed wealth and confidence. Yet around 1200 BCE, everything changed. Palaces were burned, cities abandoned, trade routes broken. The entire eastern Mediterranean fell into chaos. Historians call this the Bronze Age collapse. Some blame the Sea Peoples, mysterious raiders who attacked coastal towns. Others point to earthquakes, droughts, internal wars, or economic failure. Most likely, it was a mix of all these problems happening at the same time. For centuries after, Greece entered a dark age. Writing disappeared, populations shrank, and large-scale construction stopped. But out of that darkness, a new Greek civilization was born, the one that would later create philosophy, democracy, and art that shaped Western culture. The Mycenaean story reminds us that collapse is not always the end. Sometimes it is a rebirth. 5. The Maya, a jungle empire that fell twice. Across the ocean, in Central America, the Maya built another shining civilization. Between 250 and 900 CE, their cities, Tikal, Palenque, Copan, rose high above the jungle. They built massive pyramids and temples, used an advanced calendar, and studied astronomy with incredible accuracy. But the classic Maya civilization began to decline in the 9th century. Populations dropped, wars increased, and cities were slowly abandoned. Archaeologists found evidence of long droughts during this time. Farmers overused the land, cutting down forests for crops, which made the soil poor. Without rain, harvests failed. Warfare between rival city-states also played a role. When food became scarce, rulers tried to expand their power, leading to endless conflict. Combined with environmental stress, the system collapsed. Later, the Maya rebuilt new cities in other regions, but the Golden Age was over. Their fall shows how delicate the balance between nature, politics, and society can be. When leaders focus on short-term power and ignore ecological warning signs, decline becomes unavoidable. 6. Easter Island, isolation and overuse. Few stories illustrate self-destruction as clearly as Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. Polynesian settlers arrived there around 1200 CE. They brought their culture, tools, and plants, and began carving the famous stone statues called moai. The statues were symbols of power and faith, each representing an ancestor or chief. To move the giant statues, people cut down trees for ropes and rollers. Over centuries, forests disappeared. Without trees, the soil eroded, birds vanished, and agriculture declined. Fishing became harder because there was no wood to build canoes. By the 17th century, the population had fallen dramatically. Food became scarce, and violent conflicts broke out. Some legends even speak of cannibalism during the worst years. When Europeans arrived in the 18th century, the once thriving culture was broken. Easter Island is a tragic lesson about unsustainable resource use. A society that destroys the very environment it depends on cannot survive long. 7. The Khmer Empire, the fall of Angkor. In Southeast Asia, the Khmer Empire built one of the most impressive cities in history, Angkor. Its temples, including the famous Angkor Wat, remain symbols of human creativity. At its height in the 12th century, the empire covered most of modern Cambodia and parts of Thailand, Laos, and Vietnam. But by the 15th century, Angkor was largely abandoned. Historians believe that the empire's complex water system, which depended on monsoon rains, failed after decades of drought and flooding. When the balance broke, the huge city could no longer feed its population. Combined with foreign invasions and internal conflicts, the once mighty Khmer Empire collapsed. The ruins of Angkor are a quiet reminder that technology alone cannot save a civilization if nature's balance is lost. 8. Common patterns of collapse. Although these civilizations lived in different places and times, their stories share common patterns. Environmental change, droughts, floods, soil erosion, and deforestation repeatedly appear in history. Civilizations depend on stable weather, and when it changes, survival becomes difficult. Resource overuse. People often take more from nature than it can renew. Forests disappear, land becomes dry, rivers polluted. Once the environment is damaged, rebuilding is slow or impossible. War and invasion. When resources are scarce, wars start. Empires attack weaker neighbors. Sometimes, external invasions destroy entire cultures. Political corruption and inequality. When leaders serve only themselves, citizens lose trust. Unfair systems lead to rebellion. Economic problems. Loss of trade routes, inflation, or poor management can quickly weaken states. These factors rarely act alone. Usually, collapse happens when several appear together, a chain reaction where one crisis causes another. 9. The speed of collapse. Civilizations rarely fall overnight. Most declines take decades or even centuries. At first, signs are small: fewer public works, less trade, growing inequality. Then, stress builds up until a breaking point is reached. Some collapses are fast: a war, a drought, or a sudden disaster. Others are slow, almost invisible, as people gradually lose skills, traditions, or hope. Even when cities fall, culture often survives. The knowledge, language, and art of ancient peoples continue in their descendants. Collapse is not total death, but transformation. 10. The lessons of the Indus Valley Civilization. The Indus Valley Civilization, which flourished in what is now Pakistan and northwest India, is one of the most mysterious ancient societies. It had advanced city planning, clean water systems, and even public baths. The people built their cities using baked bricks and organized them in perfect grids, something that many later civilizations could not match. However, around 1900 BC, this advanced society started to decline. Historians still debate the reasons. Some think that climate change, especially the drying of the Saraswati River, made agriculture impossible. Others believe that natural disasters, such as earthquakes, may have changed the course of rivers, cutting off water sources. There is also evidence that trade with Mesopotamia stopped, weakening the economy. What makes the Indus Valley unique is that it did not fall because of war or invasion. It slowly faded away, leaving behind silent cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. These ancient ruins remind us that even peaceful, organized societies can vanish if they depend too much on fragile environmental systems. 11. Ancient Greece. The rise and fall of city-states. Ancient Greece is famous for its philosophers, art, and democracy. But the Greek world was made up of many independent city-states: Athens, Sparta, Corinth, and others, each with its own government and goals. While this independence created great cultural diversity, it also caused endless conflicts. The Peloponnesian War between Athens and Sparta weakened both cities. Their armies were powerful, but years of fighting destroyed farmlands and reduced trade. When Macedonia, under King Philip II and later Alexander the Great, rose in the north, the weakened Greek states could not resist. Still, Greek culture did not truly fall. Its ideas about democracy, philosophy, and art spread far beyond its borders and continued to influence the Roman Empire and even modern civilization. In a sense, Greece lost its independence, but achieved immortality through culture. 12. The Roman Empire, the giant that collapsed. No story of ancient decline is complete without Rome. The Roman Empire was once the center of the known world, stretching from Britain to Egypt, with millions under its rule. Its roads, laws, and armies were unmatched. So why did such a powerful empire collapse? Historians usually point to a combination of factors: political corruption, economic troubles, overexpansion, and constant invasions from outside tribes. Emperors changed so often that stability became impossible. The army, once the pride of Rome, became expensive and less loyal. Another reason was social decay. The gap between rich and poor widened. Many citizens lost their sense of duty to the state. When Germanic tribes invaded in the 5th century, Rome no longer had the unity or strength to defend itself. But again, the fall of Rome did not mean the end of everything Roman. Latin evolved into modern European languages. Roman law shaped Western legal systems, and the idea of Rome lived on in the hearts of later empires. 13. The Mayan collapse, a warning from the jungle. Deep in the jungles of Central America, the Maya built impressive cities like Tikal, Copan, and Palenque. They were masters of astronomy and mathematics, predicting solar eclipses and creating complex calendars. Yet around 900 AD, many of their cities were suddenly abandoned. Why did this happen? Archaeologists now believe that several centuries of drought made farming impossible. Overpopulation and soil exhaustion worsened the crisis. The kings, who were seen as divine, lost credibility when they could not stop the suffering. Civil wars broke out, and cities turned against each other. By the time the Spanish arrived hundreds of years later, the once great Mayan civilization was gone, leaving only ruins covered by jungle. The Mayan story shows how environmental stress and human conflict can destroy even highly intelligent societies. 14. Egypt's long decline. Ancient Egypt lasted for more than 3,000 years, far longer than any other major civilization. Its fall was not sudden, but gradual. Over centuries, Egypt was weakened by internal division and repeated foreign invasions from the Assyrians, Persians, Greeks, and finally the Romans. As power shifted between local rulers and foreign kings, Egypt lost control of its economy and resources. The once great Nile irrigation system began to fail, and agriculture suffered. Religion also changed. The old gods lost influence as new beliefs entered from abroad. By the time of Cleopatra VII, Egypt was no longer the mighty kingdom it once had been. Her death in 30 BC marked the end of an era and the beginning of Roman rule. Yet, as with many fallen civilizations, Egypt's culture survived through its art, language, and architecture, which still inspire us today. 15. The hidden causes of collapse. When we look at these ancient stories together, we start to see patterns. Civilizations rarely fall because of a single event. Instead, collapse happens when multiple pressures come together: environmental, economic, political, and social. Environmental decline. When resources like water and fertile soil disappear, cities starve. Economic trouble. Trade routes shift, inflation rises, or debts grow uncontrollable. Political instability. Corruption, poor leadership, and constant wars destroy unity. Social division. When the gap between rich and poor grows, trust disappears. External threats. Invaders, epidemics, or new technologies can end centuries of peace. Each of these factors alone may not destroy a civilization, but together they create a storm that few societies can survive. 16. Modern reflections. Are we next? It's tempting to think that the fall of ancient civilizations is a thing of the past. But if we look closer, we may see echoes of their problems today. Climate change, political division, and economic inequality threaten modern nations too. For example, Over-reliance on limited natural resources like oil, gas, or fresh water mirrors the mistakes of the past. Political corruption and social polarization can make even strong countries fragile. Technology, while powerful, can also increase dependence and reduce human resilience. The lesson from ancient times is not just about loss, but about adaptation. Some civilizations fell completely, others transformed. The Greeks influenced Rome, and Rome influenced Europe. The Mayan descendants still live in Central America. Civilizations die, but culture evolves. 17. Rebirth from the ashes. History also teaches that collapse is often followed by renewal. After the fall of Rome came the rise of medieval Europe. After the collapse of Egypt came the spread of Greek and Roman influence. After every dark age, new ideas and systems appear. Perhaps this is the greatest message from the fall of ancient civilizations, that failure is not the end, but a transformation. Humanity learns, rebuilds, and moves forward, often stronger and wiser than before. Conclusion. The story of ancient civilizations is not just about ruins and forgotten empires. It is a mirror for our own world. It reminds us that power, wealth, and technology cannot guarantee survival. Only balance between nature, society, and wisdom can keep a civilization alive. When we walk among the stones of old temples or read about fallen kings, we are not just studying the past, we are looking into our own future. Every empire, no matter how strong, carries the seeds of its own fall, but also the potential for rebirth.